We the NWA of this shit. Huey's K letting it spray on beats by Dre and this shit. This is Black Moses, Kwame, this is Fred Hampton surviving his raid. It's a silent escape, proof the revolution exists. Cause I'm an N-I-G-G-A. With my pants low and my fists raised, I heard Pox pull it out in 5th grade, that was ingrained. Now I'm on my fucking shit like a slave taking a sick day. I'm that nigga like a witness, IDing me to the DA, that's them. The lost tribe. Sons and daughters of pagan gods, our complexion is a lesson. Niggas like me immediately detected by detectives. After I draw his attention, he draw his weapon. He pauses for a second, scans me for a reason to shoot my ass, then justify his aggression with my presence. That's why the role of the critic in this debate is to watch the shit burn. And as ballot is your non-resistance to the flames as the deck burns around you. It's not passive, it's actually your sitting back and watching it is an active process. Don't fight to protect this space from niggas. Vote after, let niggas tear this shit up and burn this shit down. Now first, the slave ship is as real today as it was during the Middle Passage. And the vehicle that turned the African into the nigger object. Extend on when they see Wilson and Yancey evidence that explains how this the process by which the African got on the ship and the African got on the ship but got off the ship a slave, a thing. Now, now cross-sectionally, they can't give you a clear articulation of whether it is a slave ship or not, or whether or what constitutes what a slave ship is. Shows you the way in which they can't the way in which they can't understand the way in which these things work. Now the second is that the impact of the slave ship is gratuitous violence and perpetual deontologization of the nigga. The role of societal institution is to turn the Negro, the black human, back into the nigger object. Cop cars and court cases are material examples of the slave ship. This extend our 1AC Wilson evidence and Yancey evidence that discusses the role of the slave ship in the Middle Passage today. The police. This is Judy 94. The niggas conflated with the bad nigger as homo criminalis, constituting a threat to the survival of the community by giving the police the cause to attack. The police as agents of the state work to maintain the order of things, to enforce the laws of property. In other words, the function of the police as officers of the courts is to turn the Negro back into the nigger. And the legal system, one is a nigger thing. Only in the community is one a human subject. It is society, not just police in the narrow sense of the authorized armed regulatory force, but police in the broader sense of governmentality that the nigger threatens to undermine. The aim of social hygiene is to eradicate the social condition that breeds the criminal, or as it were, the nigger. The police is the order of governmentality called the community. That is the disciplinary practices that construct society as an economy of well-managed individuals. It means any nigger who doesn't obey the law and take more responsibility for his actions is a bad nigger. Next, what it means to be a nigger is a direct challenge to society, the flame to the slave ship. The radical potential of niggas overcomes the commodification that represents our existence and still fuels the flames. This is Judy in 94. The status of being at once both rooted in experience and available for appropriation marks the nigga as functional by which diverse Plutonian experiences are expressed or authenticated as viable resistance to dominant forms of power. When Public Enemy released Don't Believe the Hype in 1989, they were marking how popular culture itself is a technology of government. Nigga defines authenticity as an adaptation to a force of commodification. It's not engendered by virtue or its relation or of its relation to which that has been protected from commodification. An oppositional cultural movement that is thoroughly symbolic in the face of political domination. Nigga is not an essential identity, strategic or otherwise, but rather indicates the historicity of indeterminate identity. The question is not what is nigga authenticity, but whether or not nigga can be either authentically or inauthentically. Nigga poses an existential problem that concerns what it means or how it. This is important for the rest of the debate, so I want to point this out. But nigga poses an existential problem that concerns what it means or how it is possible to be human. The nigga returns to the existentialist preoccupation with the difference between the subject of knowledge and the subject of experience. The question of nigga authenticity is an ontological question. To be nigga is ontologically authentic because it takes care of the question of how a human is really among things. Now, the next criticism of attempting to say that the civil rights movements and racial freedom movements are bad for antler reasons, it is a way in which they perpetuate the ignorability of nigga shit. Their desire to shift the focus away from the slave ship is what creates the conditions that make things like racial profiling and police violence possible. This is Martin Owens Sexton in 03. It is of course possible to speak out against such white supremacist violence as immoral or illegal, but the impossibility of thinking through the ethical dimension has had a structural effect. For those who are not racially profiled or tortured when arrested, who are not tried and sentenced when the presumption guilty, who are not shot reaching for their identification, all of this is immediately ignorable. The refusal to acknowledge a mode of social is being cultivated for which the paradigm of policing is the cutting edge. We have to look beyond racialized police violence to see its logic. The ignorability of police impunity is what it renders it inarticulable outside of the hegemonic information. Ignorability becomes the condition of possibility for for the ethical coherence of the inside. The dichotomy between white ethical dimension and its irrelevance to the violence of police profiling is very structural to racialization today. It's a twin structure, a regime of violence that operates in two registers. Terror and seduction and the fraudulent ethics of social order and the double economy of terror structured by a ritual incessant performance. Now, on case. Now, cross-apply the Judy evidence that talks about the question of the nigga is an ontological question. It actually gets to the heart of what it means to be human. So at the point where we're saying like how niggas should burn down the slave ship, and they attempt to try to say, well, other racial dichotomies exist, so so we're excluding other people by talking about those things. But when we're winning that the slave ship is what structures the way in which society positions certain bodies throughout based on modernity, that shows the way in which other it's not just a specific question of how the state fucks over niggas, but how the state fucks over bodies, how the state determines what certain bodies mean in the context of civil society. So their attempt to try to say, oh, we're bad because we only talk about black people's attempt to deny those experiences and also cross-apply our sex and evidence that says this is a part of the ignorability and the privilege that they have brought into this debate. Now remember, he even using part of his identity as a commodity, when the only reason he brings up the fact that he's Latino is to say that, hey, I'm Latino and you talk about black people. That's messed up. You know what I mean? And when that's the only reason that you bring into this debate, it shows you that their epistemology is flawed. Now on to the criticism. Now, this is with the presentation of the criticism. This then becomes a method debate. Who best goes about addressing the issues that structures bodies, the way in which perpetuate violence against them. First, they're not mutually exclusive with the affirmative. Once again, cross-apply the Judy evidence and how the nigga is an existential question of what it means to be human. The nigga showing any type of autonomy as an object shows you that the way in which the world structures what it means to be human is flawed. Us being within this space, being able to participate in such activities like debate, shows you that the way in which we structure what education and who participates in education is flawed. That is a part of our method. Their argument that we should embrace an ethic of care dismisses the fact that the ontology in which the ethics of care are created are already their ethics are already shaped by the ontology of the slave ship. Like embracing any type of ethic that hasn't already challenged the slave ship only produces the ethics of slave ship. What do we care about? Why do we care about those things? The reason why they lose this debate is because their ethics of care has already shown you that they're asking you to dismiss the idea of what's going of the slave ship and how it affects black bodies in terms of just like we're just saying that we need to assist animals. Now also. Only being anthro doesn't mean you can't be racist. You know what I mean? So even if they win the starting point, our method to challenging and attacking what it means to be human is a better way to go about it. This is Harper and Team. This lady in the audience who was irritated with my talk told me that it was a stretch and a little paranoid for me to suggest that the government of the USA benefits from putting black and brown boys in jail. It was an obscene display of white class privilege entitlement and the white middle class epistemological understanding of the role of law, criminality in prisons. By default, they're helping to alleviate animal suffering because they're now vegetarian and vegan. Black and brown folk are not foolish. It's not like we necessarily need others to come and bring us the message of veganism. You and I are doing this work, but we're just bringing in a different entry point from it acknowledges racism and classism, how legacies of racialized colonialism have manifested the disease of our black and brown bodies, and how well-planned they stand can fight this. Due to the materialized racism, classism, and whatnot, certain groups of people will approach plant-based dietary lifestyles, not from the entry point of animal rights priorities, perhaps making sure our black and brown boys don't end up in a prison industrial complex. Marker right there. So, at the point where, in order for that ethics of care to matter, we must first burn down the slave ship. We must first challenge the ontology of what shaped what it means to be human in the first place. You vote affirmative because, like I said, the ontology, the affect of the nigga is the only way to actually truly challenge it.
Can you repeat that last argument for me, please?
Well, the last argument I was making is that the ethics of care is still based in the ontology of the slave ship. That your ethics of care does what are your ethics shaped off of? Well, if you just say ethics, we already know that ethics and morals in a very generic standpoint means white ethics and white morals.
Sure, to the point where our cards specifically talk about how we are in, resistance to the white male definition of what is ethical, what is deontological.
What you say you are, and the method in which you challenge those ontologies is flawed. Like you don't just by saying we need to embrace an ethics of care. If you don't interrogate what it means to have ethics, what it means to be moral, all of those things are structured and shaped by the slave system.
How do we not do that in our Donovan evidence when we say that current ethics aren't actually ethics?
Your Donovan evidence is nothing in context of the 1AC. It's in the context of things like Findus Smith is an ego.
Sure, it's not in the context of the 1NC because we're critiquing ethics. We say that we use ethics, but we're criticizing.
Oh, right, but our argument, but also the Harper evidence articulates the way in which, even within an ethics of caring for animals, you know what I'm saying, in the way in which you are non-human animals, in the way in which you do, you can still perpetuate racialized violence.
Okay. I guess I want to take us back to the beginning of what you said. So if not caring probably preceded the slave ship, how does this make sense?
What do you mean not?
You said
Well, first off, you gotta understand.
You said the ethic of care came after the slave.
No. Like my argument was that what it is that we care for, what it means to care, all of those things, those ideas are shaped by the slave ship. And the only thing that we can
do. Can you give me an idea of what that looks like? Like what being able to care for somebody, but under a slave ship mentality. What does that look like?
Well, I mean, shit. Like literally, your ethics of care. You know, the way in which you get up here and say, "Oh, the what's the name movement was anthro." You know what I mean? Now, is that a reason to reject it? If not, then it's still a reason to vote aye.
Can I interject for a second? Like the way in which the ethics of care are dangerous here is that the way in which you can get images that show the violence that happens to animals, the way in which you can calculate the violence that happens to animals is not something we can access. Even here, where we have a map of the slave trade, we don't know how many bodies got thrown off, got dumped, and all that shit. Like we can't calculate in relation.
I guess we acknowledge that like our calculations are probably just like speculative at best. We don't actually.
Yeah, we can't speculate that. That's the point. That's how your ethics of care.
So literally by us saying that like probably, most likely billions of animals die, that's uniquely bad.
Well, I mean, it's not about. Hold on, you missing the point. It's not about quantifying. It's not about quantifying what happened to certain bodies. What it is, the method that you present in this debate is we should embrace an ethic of care. No, that ethics of care does not bring down the ontology that not only shape shape the way in which we have the body, the way in which we shape bodies in society, but literally what it means to be human. It doesn't challenge that.